Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Angel of Words podcast, where your stories are heard. I am your host, Angel of Words, and before we get started, don't forget to click on that notification bell on YouTube. Like, follow, subscribe, share these messages. It's important. We're also on Spotify. You can follow us there as well, and they also give video there, so you could watch us there as well. And we're also on all podcast platforms if you just want to listen. Our sponsors, as you know, are OTW Threads, reminding you to be out of this world. We're also sponsored by attitudeon10.com, your place to start getting over your trauma. Folks, below on the channel, if you want to start your own podcast and you need to know what to purchase, or you need to reach out to me for a consultation to start your own professional or prosumer podcast, please reach out to me. I'm more than willing to help, and all the links are below for anything you need to start your own podcast. In addition to that, we have the merchandise available on www.aowent.com. So if you want to support through buying merchandise, go to the website. Everything there is available. And don't forget that Angel of Words may be coming to a town near you. So if you want to book me, I'm available. Now, on deck, on the Angel of Words podcast, we have a special guest. We have a big boss. We have the CEO of BLOCKQUAKE, co-founder Antonio Brasse. Antonio, it's been a long time coming, sir. But you finally made it in studio. Thank you for being here today.
Definitely. Thank you for having me.
Antonio, there's a lot to unravel, man. So, let's just get to it. You're from New York, born and raised. You went to the CUNY system. You've been, a very successful individual in the world of finance. And before we get into BLOCKQUAKE, I want to give the listeners, a sense of your credibility and how much you have a passion for business and finance. So I want to start with the fact that you went to a CUNY school. Correct?
I did.
And you also went to Brooklyn Tech, which is one of the best, schools, public schools here in New York City. So you're a product of the public school system of New York. How does that make you feel, man? As an entrepreneur.
Incredibly proud. I like to let people know that there is quality education in the public system. I went to, even prior to Brooklyn Tech, I went to magnet schools and Beacon schools growing up, and these were all public schools in the New York City system. So I let people know, like, there's quality education. A lot of people I went to Brooklyn Tech with, some went into CUNY, some went on to Ivy League schools, whatever it was. But we got good nurturing through the New York City school system. So like, we need to protect that stuff. There's a lot of people that can't afford private school, right? So we definitely need to invest in the public school system and just make sure people have an opportunity like I did.
And do you feel the resources were adequate while you were going to school in CUNY?
Yes. At least when I was going, I felt like it was incredibly adequate. I went to Brooklyn College for CUNY, and I actually studied two majors. I did two different Bachelor of Science degrees, one in accounting, one in computer science. And I often heard people describe Brooklyn College as the poor man's Harvard, and meaning you got incredibly high quality education at a fraction of the cost. And I had professors that were teaching at Ivy League schools where, like, they're teaching my class, and then I found out, they're also teaching at NYU or Columbia or wherever they're teaching.
Nice.
And it was really interesting to know, like, I was getting that same level of education, at a fraction of the cost.
That's fantastic, because, I went to a CUNY myself, you know what I mean? City College of New York, shout out to y'all. You know what I'm saying? And, I feel like you make the best out of the whatever resources you have available. And I'm glad that, I had a great experience there myself. And, I really vouch for the CUNY system. So thank you for giving us that perspective on the CUNY system. Now, from CUNY, you ended up at major corporations, man.
Yeah.
You know, you've lived a long life in the private sector, you know, in the IT world and also in the financial world, correct?
Yes, yeah, I
Oh,
actually, my career was a merging of the 2
yeah.
the entire time, which is, unique. When I was at Brooklyn College, uh, something, just told me, "Learn both, learn finance, learn technology," and that's how I ended up doing 2 bachelor's degree, 1 in each one, and, who knew? I didn't know I was going down that road where I was gonna work for 10, 15 plus years, using both.
I know, you know, it's like you were a step ahead of the game because these things are relevant to one
Yeah.
another, you know? And you did you know, you've done a lot of auditing, you've done a lot of, information technology, things of that nature. And did you start at AIG because you worked at AIG and you were a vice president at Citibank, right? At the
Yeah.
for Citigroup, excuse me.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So, I actually started my audit career, um, at the city government. I was at the comptroller's office,
Really?
right across from City Hall,
Nice.
the big Muni building that was in one of the
Yeah,
Batman
right over there.
movies. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So I started there audit and worked there about 3 years. And actually, a lot of my managers told me I need to go to private sector. They were like, "You're too talented. You need to kind of progress with your career. You're young, early 20s at that time." And yeah, just took their advice and continued my audit career actually in New York Life. So I went to New York Life first, spent a number of years there. I was initially just a operational financial auditor at first, and as my management like came to understand that I also have a comp sci background, information technology background, I started getting leveraged more and more to do some technology audit work. And then from there, I ended up going over to AIG as a technology auditor, starting there. And that was definitely more my mold where, like, I sat on the technology audit side as the guy that understood business. There was a lot lacking on that side of it where few people understood business operations, and that kind of drives all your technology decisions. So it was just an interesting role to be in where I kind of was of two worlds. So I knew how to operate in both of them and then help them understand each other as well. So I ended up being at AIG for a little bit. Then I went over to Citibank for a couple of years. As you pointed out, I had a vice presidency title over there. Um, and then I went back to AIG for a couple of more months before jumping into Blockquake full time. But I also got to do a ton of global travel because of those audit assignments. All those companies were global financial powerhouses, and I had the opportunity to visit so many countries and different cities in the U.S. And that actually piqued my interest to keep traveling the world, just as personally, and kept doing that. I've been to over 40 something countries at this point in my life. And I think all of that plays a role in who I am today and the way I kind of just view life and business globally.
Wow, that's fantastic. A young kid from Brooklyn, couple double
Yeah,
majors, and all of a sudden you're
yeah,
flying all over the
yeah,
universe.
yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic. Now, were you at AIG or Citi during during the recession of the early 2000s? Like, were you a part of that?
I was actually at New York Life. You're talking about
Okay,
2008 when
okay,
the thing started like hitting the fan.
yeah. Did that
So
affect New York life? I'm sure everything in some way, shape,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
form.
everything affected anyone,
Yeah.
but it was interesting, like, I was at New York Life when it all happened. New York Life is a privately owned company still, they're not publicly traded, because they're called a mutual insurance company, they're essentially owned by the policyholders, in a way. So, because of that positioning, they never really took on a lot of debt, like, everything was they were pretty cash rich as a company, so their financial statements weren't really hammered because they weren't involving themselves in a lot of the high risk products that blew up in everyone's face. But I do remember like when this first started happening, kind of between 2008 and 2010. I actually remember being approached by recruiters that were trying to recruit um, uh, auditors for AIG, and like AIG was always in the news, and I'm like, nope, I'm not going over there right now
Yeah.
with everything kind of falling to pieces. And then, eventually 2010 came around, and, things are a little bit more. I mean, we were still going through the crisis, but for a lot of these companies, they kind of hit their bottom. They kind of figured things out, which direction they need to go. And I felt there was, when I got approached again about AIG, felt like, okay, there's, enough stability in there that if I go in, they kind of know where they're putting me. And
Yeah.
I
And the
wasn't.
swamp was drained a little
Yeah,
bit,
yeah,
you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Because you're, I mean, you're in the, I mean, with what you do, during the recession, like you're in the middle of the whole tornado, man. Like
yeah,
you're in the
yeah,
eye of the hurricane.
yeah.
That's nuts.
And then being
That,
it,
yeah, go
yeah,
ahead. Sorry.
sorry, yeah, and then
Yeah.
being in the role I was in,
Yeah.
right? Like being in audit, compliance, like risk management type functions, you're I hate using the word like a police officer or something, but for, listeners, easiest way to describe it is like, hey, you're like the police of your internal company that you work
You're the
for, where
mom, man.
yeah, where, you're there to,
Yeah.
make sure that, not that everything's going right, but that, the company's managing its risk properly. Like, yes, business has to get done, but, it just makes sure, like, you're compliant with laws and regulations, compliant with the company's policies, that best practices are being followed. So, it's important to be in a company at the right time where the senior management of the company supports that. Because like anyone could go pull up news about back in the day when Enron happened, or during the financial crisis of
Yeah.
2008, where you'd see a lot of these financial companies that ended up failing, or companies in general that ended up failing, where the top level management that was in charge of the company, they didn't necessarily support those compliance, risk management, audit roles that were there to essentially, protect the company.
I mean, let's be honest. You protect them from the SEC, from the FTC as well. You know what I'm saying? That's your job. But a lot of if you have a rogue owner, a rogue CEO that wants to bend borders and do things of that nature, and you don't have somebody curbing his appetite, you're
Yeah.
gonna run into issues as a big company, and that's where you come in.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
literally like the angel on the right side, saying, you may not want to do that because this may happen down the line, and then this is really gonna be an for lack of a better term, a shit show. You know what I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
saying?
And when I went to AIG in 2010, late 2010, it was um, an interest in New York Life was similar to where the senior management, the CEO, and everything of those companies, they were, and I think maybe it's because they were insurance companies and things might be a little bit more structured. They were very pro audit department, so it was a really good environment to be in where I would go audit these other departments, and they saw me as a partner. And I think that's why, like, I like private sector auditing, because often the people that you're reviewing, in a lot of cases, they do understand that, hey, we're partners in this. We're not like trying to do like gotcha.
Yeah.
Obviously, if we find something that needs to be fixed, it's not like you're getting fired or anything. It's like, okay, hey, we were there to be a third party, outsider looking in, fresh pair of eyes, right? Sort of the role where, you know, um, you give credit where credit is due. And if something can be tightened up, we tighten it up, and we move forward together. So just having senior management pretty much at all the companies I've worked for privately, like, support what we were doing, that was amazing. I know not everyone really has that same journey that
Yeah,
has
that's
had
what I'm
my
saying.
career.
Has there ever been a time where you were made to feel a little bit uncomfortable working at any of these companies?
Um, there's been times like, and it depends on what team you're on, right? Because for these companies that are global, these departments are huge. So it depends on who your direct managers are, and are they really on mission about uh, doing the right thing? And but for the most part, like, there might have been one or two examples throughout my career, but for the most part, just like very supportive managers that really helped me grow, and then up the chain to senior managers that that were really there to um, make sure things were working right at the companies.
what was the reception like when you got vice president, man? Like, how did you feel? Like, was your family proud of you and stuff like that? Like, what was that like?
Yeah, it's
'Cause that's a big
interesting.
deal, man. To me, that's a big deal. You come from Brooklyn,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? We all grew up in New York City and, like, I don't know too many people that are vice president in any department, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it
So
I personally take a nonchalant approach to it
okay,
because,
cool.
titles are finicky in financial services, like,
Got you.
you can have a title. My background's West Indian, Caribbean background, so and I know you're
They must have been
Latino, right?
hyped. Yeah, they must have
Yes,
been
yes, yes, yes,
like
right? Like, from our culture, like,
Yeah.
everyone, like, wants to know what your title is, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
so,
it's a
like, they
big
hear
deal.
manager or,
Yeah.
vice president or senior whatever,
Yeah.
they're excited, but, it's funny, my dad always told me growing up, like, "A title doesn't pay the bills, a pat on the back doesn't pay the bills, like, show me the money."
Yeah.
Um,
Word.
but obviously, as you move up the ranks, like, they do pay better,
Yeah.
obviously, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Uh,
And then you got tired of it all, and here we go with Blockquake.
yes,
Now, were you working with crypto before you got into this crypto space now with Blockquake?
yeah, so I'll give you some background on that.
Okay.
So, because I was a technology and financial auditor in banking and insurance, just naturally, myself and other coworkers and people in my circle, you'd play around with trading things on your own. So, like, I was trading stocks, options, futures, forex, whatever, before I even touched crypto. And then, when people started talking about crypto mid 2010 to 2020, 2015, 2016. I was a technology auditor at the time, so a lot of the people I worked with, they were kind of like, "Hey, what is this? Let's take a look at this." So that's how I heard about it. So I started playing around with it in 2016, and that's how I got into it. And as I went through that experience, particularly going into the end of 2017, when a lot of regular everyday people were finding out about crypto and jumping in. Um, I saw a lot of gaps and problems in the space with my other co-founders. Like, I've got one of the stories where, like, me and one of the co-founders, where literally New Year's Eve weekend 2017, I think it was like December 29th, 2017, where we're shooting the breeze, drinking some whiskey together, and trying to trade crypto. And while we're there, we've seen even back then we saw a lot of crypto scams that are out there, and we were trading on one of these platforms. We don't even remember the name of it, and I remember he was going to place a trade, and something, I was like, wait, I don't think we should do that, and did it anyway. And then that trading platform pretty much, like, crashed and burned and never came back up, and they eventually, like, ran away with all his crypto and everyone else's crypto that used them.
Oh,
So
that's
there's a
terrible.
lot of rug pulls out there,
Yeah.
and kind or you couldn't get out the trade. I remember, like, there was a trade that he and I were in, and couldn't exit it because, like, I mean, it was kind of a scam to begin with, and the platform couldn't really support it. So, I remember in the moment, like, we were just kind of talking about, "Oh, this is BS," uh, and us saying, like, we could do this we could do this better, and we should just build our own. And we kind of just, like, looked at each other, and light bulb went off, and we realized, wait, okay, between us and our network, we either know what to do, or we know the people that know what to do, or can find them. Because while everyone talks about technology, when it comes to crypto trading and crypto exchanges and trading platforms, I mean, this is, it's financial services at the end of the day. That's what we're talking about. So it was, um, it was like Blockhook was born through our own pains in the industry, as is most startups, right? Like,
Yeah, definitely. You
yeah,
get, you get your failures and
yeah,
you get humbled
yeah,
before things,
yeah.
start to go the way you want them to
Yeah,
go.
I definitely, I want to take a step back. I do want to give a shout out to my managers that I
Of
used to
course, go
work
ahead.
with.
Yeah.
Yeah, my managers I used to work with at AIG. You know, I, I went back a second time, worked there, and only worked there, like, I think 6 to 9 months before leaving to do
That's
Blockquake full
crazy,
time.
man. Yeah.
So I mean, I didn't know this was going to happen.
Okay.
So I was back in AIG October 2017, and there was nothing in my mind that I was going to try to start a global crypto exchange company, right?
Yeah,
Like,
because you're global, man. This is a
yeah,
big deal.
yeah. I wasn't thinking anything about that stuff, and here we went into end of 2017, January 2018, and we're now trying to build this. And then I realized probably around March that wait, I'm gonna have to leave this company to focus on this full time. And I sat down with my senior managers, we talked about it, and they were very caring.
Really? So
They
you actually sat down with your managers and let them know about your thoughts for your future, and
Yeah.
that it didn't involve AIG, and they didn't make your life a living
No,
hell.
one of my senior managers specifically, like, he definitely showed, like, "Hey, Antonio, let's try to keep you as long as possible because, I wanna make sure you have an income. You're talking about walking away from a salary and doing this full time." So, I really appreciated, like, just that human level of care,
Wow.
and then because of the industry I was going into, a lot of higher up people at AIG had to get involved in the conversation about how long are they willing to let me stay on, because it was less about whether my time commitment at AIG was going to be an issue and more about the industry I'm in, and like if I'm out there speaking and I'm doing that and working for the company.
It's a
Uh,
lot of conflict of interest, man,
yeah,
for
yeah, and I
sure.
totally understood that.
Yeah.
So, we talked. I talked with different people in like HR compliance at very high levels of the company. So, definitely people pretty much at the very top knew what I was walking away to go do, and everyone was really supportive. Like, so these conversations are happening in March, and we agreed to me exiting June 1st. Like, you don't find management people you work for willing to give you that kind of time to
Never.
make your exit.
This sounds
So
like alien talk to me right
yeah,
now.
yeah. So like so appreciative of
Yeah.
kind of, the way they worked through it with me. And I remember it was like when it was my last week at AIG, June 1st is approaching, it was a Friday, and just kind of doing all your farewells to everyone. And uh the one of the chief executives at the company that ran one of the departments at a global level, I actually got an email from him wishing me the best of luck. Like, that stuff doesn't happen. So,
Yeah.
just very thankful. Like, I felt like I kind of exited the 9 to 5 world on on the highest note that I could ever imagine.
Oh,
So,
that's all, man. Well,
yeah,
congratulations to you putting that work so they respect it.
yeah,
And that's it's good to feel appreciated, when
yeah.
you're on your way. And also when when you're transitioning out there, them helping you out probably gave you a nice little severance package, I would imagine,
Yeah,
or something like that.
everything was amazing. Like, I
Yeah.
worked with, so many different people
Yeah.
between AIG, Citibank, New York Life, and I stay in touch with a lot of people still to this day. And a lot of the people I worked with across, those organizations, as well as like people I knew through Barclays or Chase Bank, or Morgan Stanley. Like, the compliance audit community is pretty close knit within
Oh, okay.
financial services in New York City. So
Nice.
even if you didn't work at a particular company, you had friends over there.
All right,
And
cool.
a lot of those people that I knew are investors in our company. Like, they helped us kind of push things along for these last couple of years.
All right, let's get down
Yep.
to it then. Blockquake, here we go.
Yep.
So Blockquake, a regulatory driven asset and cryptocurrency trading platform. Uh how was it the first few months, man, starting this company and getting together with your partners, man?
It was it felt exciting. Everything still feels exciting.
Yeah.
Well, it wa it was interesting because we saw the vision, and not everyone that was already in crypto and blockchain understood what we were seeing yet. I think for a lot of our team members, a lot of us came from financial services. We lived through a lot of booms and busts, right? The real estate crash that we talked about
Mhm.
earlier. There was, like, Enron back in the day,
Mm.
the tech bubble in the late 90s, early
Mm.
2000s, right? The forex wild wild west to becoming regulated. Like, we had been through a couple of cycles, and so we know that at the end of the day, um, you know, regulations come in, which isn't a bad thing. That helps clear everything up if done right. And we kind of saw that uh, ahead of schedule. So we talked to people about, like, hey, we want to build this company right. We want to build it with, compliance in mind because that protects the consumer at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Like people hear compliance and they're like, "What does it matter for me?" I'm like, "It matters because if a company's being transparent, willing to be overseen by regulators, and actually like check the box on like basic consumer protection stuff, like those are the companies you want to do business with." So when we were in the industry in 2018, early on, um, I'd say like the first 2 years was kind of the ideation phase.
Okay.
But yeah, we definitely, people that didn't understand that we got resistance that, oh, you guys don't know what you're talking about. You have no clue. And then as we kind of got halfway through this journey, now everyone's like, damn, you guys were right. I was like, can't believe you guys saw that way back when. And I was like, hey, I'm not an oracle or anything. It's just
Yeah.
that I've lived through it before. And, history repeats itself.
Antonio, when I think about this situation, I'm thinking about how, Marty Bird was laundering money, on Ozark, like, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Uh,
you think about bad players,
yeah.
crypto was a very cryptic
Yeah.
situation.
Did you see that Netflix special, that
Which
came out
one?
recently about that Canadian crypto exchange called Quadriga, where like the rumored death of the guy?
No, I did
You know
not,
what I'm
but
talking
no,
about?
no,
Okay,
I have not heard. I've not seen
okay,
that. I'm surprised I haven't seen that scroll through my. You should watch this situation, but I will look into
yeah,
that for sure. But that being said, like this, you think about shady partners, you think
yeah,
about laundering money, and you chose to build your Blockquake, your crypto exchange on the foundation of compliance, transparency, making sure that you're anti, essentially that you're clean and you're
yeah,
anti any of those things. You want to make sure you're everyone, everyone that's signing up
yeah,
to your exchange, and that there's no buffoonery going on, if
yeah,
you will.
yeah. I mean, for anyone that follows the crypto space,
Hmm.
there's news every day of exchanges getting hacked, or an exchange that was a scam to begin with, and people deposited money and then they ran away. Maybe they were domiciled in some like tropical island somewhere, and there's just news every day of a lot of rug pulls and scams and exit scams and stuff that are out there. So, um, we need to get to the point that people are feeling more and more confident in the space. And I tell people that are like in the business of crypto and blockchain, like we need to get there because we always keep talking about like, hey, when are we going to get to mass adoption regarding the exponential growth where regular people every day all over the globe are, using crypto and getting involved, and like we'll get there when people like feel safe.
How far away you think we are from people feeling safe? Because I mean, I want
Yeah,
to get this number right. According to crypto.com, there's only 106 million people all over the world globally that
yeah.
have any kind of part of crypto,
That
involved
that
in crypto in any. That's a small number.
That is a very small number. So when what we're obviously raising capital right now, which I think
Yeah.
you're probably going to get into
Yeah,
later,
definitely.
but
We're definitely going to discuss that for
but
sure.
as we have these conversations with, venture capital firms, private equity firms, angel investors, whoever, those questions come up like, hey, can I really make money, investing in a company like yours? And I'm like, hey, yes, look at the numbers, like a fraction of the population's involved in crypto. And we know if you look at kind of the statistics and the fact that governments are actually not trying to ban it, but trying to bring clarity to it. I'm like, this space is going to be multi-trillion dollars, and there's going to be exponential growth. I always compare it to like, the internet stocks when they first came out, where yes, there's a lot of garbage out there back then. There
Hmm.
was like probably 90 some
Talking
percent
about
of it.
Nasdaq, correct?
No, so
The
like all the dot com
the
companies,
.com
yeah,
situation.
yeah. So like
Copy.
in the late
Okay,
90s, early
got you.
2000s, all these companies were coming out. And yes, a lot of them fell by the wayside. They weren't really sustainable, real business models. But like, look at us 20 years later. We've got, Amazon and Google and all these titans that came out of that, and they revolutionized the way we do everything. Like 20 years ago, we could not have imagined that we'd be uh, using the internet this way. And that the communication, gaps that would be bridged and everything. So it's I liken it onto that where I tell people like, yes, there's a lot of uncertainty. There's probably like, I don't know, 12, 15,000 cryptos and growing at this
Yeah.
point, and
Yeah.
you don't know what to put money in or how to approach this. I was like, yes, you have to do your research, but the space overall is going to continue to grow as people find real world utility and use cases for the technology. And that's kind of then where I usually do my pitch to them, like, hey, we're the safe bet because we're agnostic to any particular crypto. We're the
Exactly.
trading platform. We're essentially trying to be the TD Ameritrade of crypto.
Yeah.
So or Charles Schwab, whatever type of broker people are familiar with. But yeah, I mean that's what I tell people. Like, there's so much growth to be done. I don't know if we even crossed 1% of the global economy yet, or barely past that regarding, the value of the entire crypto market. So there's significant upside potential.
Well, that's you spoke about something important because that's the issue. Crypto's all about deregulation, and they don't want anything similar to the banking structure, the hardcore crypto people.
Yep.
So what do you say to them when you're essentially trying to build something similar
Yep.
to that system that we already have?
Yeah. So I would tell them, hey, I'm definitely down with privacy rights and you know, the libertarian mindset of like, hey, it's your money, you should be able to do what you want with it. A lot of financial institutions babysit you, and they uh, they might see you do something that's not illegal, but just because they don't like it, shut your account down. Some of the big crypto exchanges have done that, where they behave that way, and that's not my perspective. I think that the reason you see a lot of these hardcore maximalists in the crypto space take that position is they do have a libertarian philosophy about their rights, and I agree that they should be able to do what they want with their own money. However, we also shouldn't be breaking the law, financing terrorism, money laundering. We shouldn't be doing that either. So I mean, we've got to find the middle ground.
Thank you. I feel the same
Yeah,
way. Sex trafficking, whatever it case
yeah,
maybe we got.
yeah.
Because there's a lot of bad players out there. You know what I'm saying?
I'm glad you brought that up, like, because people hear these buzzwords or catchphrases, and it means nothing to them. And a lot of maximalists in the crypto industry, they're like, "Oh, why should I care about money laundering?" I'm like, "You should, because it affects people for real." Sex trafficking that you brought up, it's one of the, money laundering is the way that's significantly financed, like drug cartels, all that stuff. Like, I mean, they're money laundering money to be able to do what they're doing. Like, there are real world implications for not checking some of this stuff.
Yeah, and that could ruin your business,
Yeah,
man.
yeah,
At the end of the day, ruin lives and everything else. Now, I want to talk about your mission, right? And
yeah.
thank you for being so candid about that, because you say the mission, on your website is to be the unified trading platform for digital assets that is trusted by all facets of the trading and investing community. First, do you think that's possible? And second, what do you mean by unified?
So, so to the first point, I do think it's possible, and um, that comes with a combination of building up your reputation in industry, as well as subjecting yourself to best practices and regulations, and pursuing different licenses, which come with compliance structures that you have to abide by. I think people should understand that, like, that's important. You should want that in a crypto exchange company, because what it does is it sets minimum baseline that are pretty uniform, that someone can trust. Like, okay, I know they're at this bar or above, which doesn't really currently exist in the space. Like right now, we're currently undergoing an audit voluntarily. You don't hear about private companies in the crypto space or any private crypto exchange actually, like, voluntarily, um, you know, hiring auditors to audit them. So, it's definitely interesting being on the other side of the table for me, having a career as an auditor and being the one that usually does the interviews. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, this is all part of consumer confidence, right? Like, so I think that over time we'll get there. I'm hoping between us trying to grow this business naturally and capital raise and stuff, that that positions us to try to help get there faster. There's a lot of things that kind of we have in our pipeline, infrastructure wise, that can help get us there faster. But it all depends on funding, how fast you can move.
Yeah.
Um, and then, what was the second point again?
Oh, you mentioned that, to be a unified trading
Yeah,
platform. Yeah.
so that's really, this was one of our pain points when we were trading, where
Okay.
you have to like jump around. Like you have to go buy Bitcoin or Ethereum with your US dollars on one platform. Then you have to take that, move it to another platform to buy that like alternative or altcoin that you wanted. And then maybe there was something else you wanted and you needed that altcoin and then move to another platform to go get that. And there's a lot of cost involved in that. Like every time you move it, there's a real cost, and then there's an opportunity cost for like the time that it took to do all that. So, it won't happen overnight, but we aspire to be a platform that has multiple fiat on ramps. And for people that don't know what that is, that's regular currency like US dollars, Canadian dollars, euros, pound, yen, that type of stuff. So we want to have multiple on ramps, and we're actually going through onboarding with a couple of banks that will help us provide that to our customers. And then we also want to be able to support as many legitimate cryptocurrency as possible on the trading platform, so people have truly a diverse set of trading options. And we're actually onboarded with a number of top market makers and continue to onboard with additional ones. So when we kind of combine that,
Yeah.
we did the hard part. Like a lot of a lot of crypto exchanges out there, people don't realize like it's hard to get those relationships because you have to be compliant. So that's we keep coming back to like why be compliant, because like that's how we land these relationships. Like they won't work with a crypto exchange that isn't doing KYC, doesn't know where money's going to and coming from, because they don't want to get in trouble either. So, but they provide that deep liquidity where hopefully in a couple of months, we're at a number of trading pairs where people can come in with whatever currency they use in one of their countries and trade into crypto, trade between different cryptos on our platform, and they don't have to leave our ecosystem, and they can kind of get it done there. They can choose to leave their assets on exchange because I believe we've got better security than most platforms out there, or they can take it off the platform if they want to hold it on their personal device. Security is another big thing too. I know we hadn't covered that yet. Um,
Oh, we
we
will. I just
yeah.
want to ask you a follow because
Oh, sure, sure. Go ahead. Yeah,
because that's what people worry about. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Like, is my money safe? Can I go in there and get it out? Can I trade it?
yeah,
On a whim. You know what I'm saying? If
yeah,
I feel like it. Like with the tangibility
yeah,
aspect. That's why a lot of people fear crypto. You know what
yeah,
I'm saying?
yeah, yeah. So it's so I guess yeah. To the security point,
Yeah. Hmm.
um, for I've actually, myself and others have experienced account hacks and stuff through no fault of our own. When you read the news about crypto exchange hacks, almost all of it's usually related to phishing scams, where like someone pretends that they're that crypto exchange's website. There might be like one letter that's off,
Hmm.
and they catch you like you're not really paying attention, and you go and sign in, and they grab your credentials, and they go to the real website and then sign in and then steal your crypto.
Yeah.
Um, we've addressed that pretty simply through just requiring application-based 2FA. So 2FA is
Yeah.
two-factor
Two-factor
authentication.
authorization. Yeah.
So app-based or application-based 2FA, that's like
I like
your
that.
your
Yeah.
Google Authenticator on your
Hmm.
phone or whichever type of app like that you want to use. So we actually are mandating that on our platform. So we don't let you use your email. We don't let you use your SMS text messaging because
Use an
though
independent app for that, like an independent app
yeah, so you
for
can
that.
actually
Yeah.
use what what your preferences. So like for
Okay.
me, like I use Google Authenticator.
Okay.
Most
Okay.
people probably use Google Authenticator.
Copy.
I think like Apple and a number of other companies have like their own version. You could use any of those versions,
Okay.
whatever your preference is, but that would be required at a certain stage to log into your account to do withdrawals. Um, and other functions. So that way, like even if someone initially phished you and they got into your account, they don't have your phone with the app based 2FA software on it. So like, okay, maybe they got into your account, but they can't really steal your stuff because they need your phone.
Mhm.
They physically need your phone
To
to
do
get that
so,
code.
yeah.
And surprisingly, most companies don't mandate app-based 2FA
It's like the
because
wild, wild west, man. It's out
yeah,
of control in some of these
yeah, and
companies.
I think the reason is like most just don't care. Like they're making so much money, and who cares about consumer protections? Probably the way they're thinking
Mm.
about it. Some of them making billions a
So
year.
how do they get licenses, man, if they don't care about this stuff? Because it's not easy to get these licenses.
Yeah, most of them don't have any licenses.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's another thing. Like
Okay.
almost all the top crypto exchanges out there are what I call quote unquote offshore exchanges. So they're intentionally only sitting in jurisdictions where like they're not really going to be held to a certain standard. Um, and people use them because like those exchanges might have that you know, rare cryptocurrency they're looking for that they might have researched that no one's heard about yet. So they kind of go there and they're taking on that risk that, their account could potentially get hacked and their crypto stolen. So that's where I think that talking to government regulators and elected officials about, hey, how can we find the in between about just making sure the customer is protected, um, so we can offer the customer as many options as possible. That'd be ideal because right now here in the U.S., Canada to a lesser degree, a lot, securities laws from the SEC, et cetera, play a big role between what can or cannot be offered to US persons or US citizens. So there might be a cryptocurrency that the SEC considers a security or unregistered security. And, by default, they don't want exchanges offering it to US persons. And until that exchange has like, their own broker dealer license, which takes a long time to get. And we want to do that down the road. But I'd say to elected officials and regulators, like, hey, where's the middle ground? Can we create a sandbox where let's make sure the right controls are in place to, protect the customer from being hacked, right? Like proper security, proper transparency, like be audited, be reviewed, allow oversight, um, and then, give, like have a pathway to becoming licensed as a broker dealer, whatever license you need for things considered securities or commodities. So at least you can operate and then let people use safer platforms while they go through that whole paperwork process to get these other licenses. So I think some countries are going down that road where they're creating that sandbox environment. Like, hey, we'll let you do X, Y, and Z while you work towards like, the standard registration framework and licensing framework that we're accustomed to. So I think like we in the US need to do more of that. So part of it, part of my role
Yeah.
uh isn't just trying to get customers on our
Yeah.
exchange once we relaunch, but also, going out there and talking to regulators and elected
Yeah,
officials. And
campaigning
yeah,
for, a swifter change in the
yeah,
in this, in
and
this financial technology space.
yeah, and we went out to DC
Yeah.
back in 2019 pre-COVID,
Okay.
and we met with a few congressional offices, and they were actually surprised that we didn't have any ask of them. We just wanted to make sure, like, hey, we meet you. We wanted to meet them, let them know, like, hey, we're hearing you. We hear your concerns. I actually want to hear about your concerns because I feel like we can find that middle ground and build in something to address your concerns and keep this moving forward. So I think we're one of the few voices of reason in the crypto space. There's a lot of lobbying activity that happens down in DC where it's the extreme, where like people take the position that no rules apply to us, and
Yeah.
um, and then that makes elected officials and regulators think like, oh, all
Uncomfortable.
the
It makes them
yeah,
uncomfortable.
uncomfortable,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and then they want to crack down more out of
Yeah.
fear, and yeah, you need more voices of reason that like, hey, how can we find the win-win? Um, Fun fact about me,
No, no, go
because I
ahead,
just
please.
said win-win, and it just came to my mind. So like everyone can look online and they'll see my background that I have a BS in accounting and computer science, and I have all these designations and licenses and stuff. Fun fact about me is like I'm formally trained as an ontological coach, life coach. So I
Okay.
actually went through a true accredited program,
Nice. All
and
right.
and I think that impacts my mindset because
Okay.
like I trained as a life coach, and I always think about like the win-win. I don't
So
believe,
you have a positive energy mindset
yeah,
where like you're really not trying to get over. You want this business to succeed, but
yeah.
you want to make sure that it's not eating away at people's souls as you're doing it.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
I tell people, when we're talking to potential investors,
Mhm.
they're always like, "Oh, how are you going to compete a bit against X, Y, and Z
Yeah,
crypto
I'm sure
exchange?"
that you
Right?
get that all the time. Like,
So,
how you gonna
oh,
compete against Coinbase and things of that
eh,
nature? But, before we go
yeah,
there, because that's
yeah,
actually gonna be my next question. But I want to talk about what you profile on, on your, on the website on your company.
yeah,
You have the global KYC standards, know your customer, which protects against fraud, corruption, like we just spoke about. You have the trading pairs. You have low fees of trading,
yeah,
0.2% per trade,
yeah,
which is, I mean, I think that's a pretty
yeah.
good,
Yeah, for
situation.
for for the type of crypto exchange that we're
Hmm.
trying to be, like this
Yeah.
all in one,
All in one, yeah,
0.2% is actually really low.
yeah.
Comparable exchanges that let you come in with your regular fiat money, US
Mhm.
dollars, whatever,
Yeah.
a lot of them charge way more than we do. You can find crypto exchanges out there that charge way, way less than us, but can you really trust them? They're offshore someplace, and you don't know when they're gonna disappear, so yeah, they're charging, a fraction of what we are, but you're taking on significant risk as well. So, like I definitely, I'm fully transparent with people about that. Hey, we're not the cheapest. We're very competitive, and we're cheaper than our direct competitors. And
Copy.
like the name of the game at the end of the day is like adding value to
Added
people's lives.
value, yeah.
I think too many people are focused on like um, the cheapest, but, like, for me, as someone, that's a consumer, like, just like yourself and many different things, we want a balance between cost and quality and value add. Like, it's never always about what's the cheap.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
You also work with different wallets, you know what I'm saying? Now you say you accept corporate retirements and trust accounts, correct? So are
Yeah.
you able to roll over like retirement accounts and retirement funds into your exchange?
Yeah, so this is the way that would work. So someone would work with, you know, a tax professional, some type of professional in that arena to set up what's called a self-directed retirement account. It could be like a IRA that everyone's heard of before,
Mhm.
or there's a concept of a solo 401k. It's like your own personal 401k. So you get that set up, you'd open up an account with us in that entity name because we can support those type of structures, and then you can actually like roll your money over directly into that account and not get hit with taxes, um, and then trade crypto and hold crypto in a retirement account, whether that's a 401k or an IRA.
You guys hear that? He said no taxes, roll over.
Yeah,
The Blockquake, baby.
yeah, yeah. There's
Go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, that came
Yeah,
up. The reason we wanted to
yeah.
tackle that was because
Mhm,
in 2017, I was looking for ways to use some of my retirement accounts to
mhm.
trade crypto, and there were very few options. There still are very few options. So that's a multi-trillion-dollar marketplace by itself, the
Mm.
retirement market. And from a business perspective, us from a business perspective at Blockquake is, if we capture a fraction of that, that's a lot of revenue for the company, which is good news for our investors, right?
Definitely,
So,
definitely.
yeah.
And we're gonna get to the investors next, but you also do it with high speed. You have all the technology to do this. You're working with good companies that do your digital security, correct? I just want to mention them here: Fireblocks and what is it, Solidus Labs?
Yeah, yeah, so
Yeah. So
they've,
how did those partnerships come about? With because I'm sure there's a lot of options, and you decided to go with these people.
yeah, Fireblocks is an
Yeah.
amazing partner.
Okay.
They're a third-party wallet infrastructure provider.
Hmm.
Love their team. Just like top-notch, ultra professional. We got connected to a lot of these partners, whether it's them, Solidus, or others, through like a common body of our network. And this is kind of like I keep coming back to the fact that a lot of our team is from financial services. And like through that, there was a natural network we had access to that then made intros for us to, some of the top players in the space. And um, I know we talk about technology and technology is important, but I think relationships are more important. Um, it's all important, but like the
I
relationships,
agree with you 1000%.
um,
Yeah.
because we couldn't have these partnerships, whether it's a Fireblocks or like the market makers or the banks that we're talking to, if there weren't relationships in place where there's a level of trust between all the parties to want to work together. Um, so I kind of point that out, particularly when I talk to. I guess we keep coming back to like the questions that we get from investors,
Of
where
course. I mean, that's the
like
most, that's important.
yeah,
Yeah.
because
Please elaborate.
and
Yeah.
and I love the quote unquote objections or questions or whatever that comes, because it gives me a chance to educate people and talk about it. That um, technology wise, you're not really going to see much differences from like one thing to another, one platform to another. It's really like, what are they doing with the technology, right? Because like it's only as good as how you use it. As someone that, I did a comp sci degree as well, right? So I programmed in like 7 different programming languages back in college. And I actually never talk about that for some reason.
Yeah.
I think I forget to, because people see my financial
Yeah.
background and they forget or don't realize that I actually have a computer programming background too. So I always point out that, I mean, you can do anything with anything. It's just like, how are you going to use this technology? And
And I'm sure you get that question a lot, like, what makes you different from
yeah,
Coinbase? Or you know what I mean? And it's seeming like that, you're building this from a compliance
yeah,
perspective.
yeah,
And you're making sure that, the yes, we all want to build great companies and we want to make jobs for people and things of that nature. But you're making sure that all the minor details are dealt with before we even start worrying about the financial
yeah.
prospects.
And what? So when people ask what makes us different, I often
Mhm.
point out it's our team, it's our vision that makes us different. Because we get the question like, "Hey, I see you guys want to do, ABC, and why aren't the other companies out there doing it?" And I can kind of bring this back to being trained as a coach, where like I say like they don't know, and that puzzles people that ask the question. And I'm like, hey, we're human beings at the end of the day, right? Like the people running those companies, they're humans at the end of the day, and you don't know what you don't know. So like a lot of the people, they don't come from traditional tech or finance backgrounds, so they haven't really lived a life of experiencing solutions and problems and so forth. So it's not in their frame of mind yet to like, oh, I should consider doing this and getting in front of this. And that's really the difference. And as someone that was an auditor in financial services, I actually have been on that side of it where, um, there are a lot of problems. Government comes in, particularly after 2008,
Yeah.
they find all these issues, and now you have to go fix it. Remediation is not easy. Like I worked at some of the biggest companies on the planet, and it took them years to fix some of the problems that were found, because like, so when some of these crypto exchanges or other platforms that are out there, when kind of the hammer comes down and they need to go fix something, honestly, they might not. Like we've already seen it with some platforms, they just exit the marketplace because it's too much work to fix it, and they've already made money, and they might just bounce.
You're all about discipline, and you know what? It seems like I'm not gonna catch you on American Greed, right?
No, no,
Blockquake, you guys wouldn't be.
I feel like we could chop it up about like shows like American Greed, where
Yeah.
I see some of these people, I'm like, how did they ever think they were gonna get away with this fraud?
Yes.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I see some like whether or some of the stuff on
Yeah.
Netflix and Hulu and stuff
Hmm.
that's been popping up. I'm like, I've watched so many things, the Quadriga thing,
Yeah.
the Theranos
Yeah.
stuff.
I'm
I was
telling
like,
you, man, it's out
how
of control.
how did they pull this off? I'm like, you were eventually gonna get caught.
Yeah. It's
I'm
like they
like,
don't care,
and I say to people all the time,
Yeah.
there's so much money to be made legally. It's just not worth taking the shortcuts and breaking all these laws and potentially ending up in jail or worse.
Oh, man, I love that. I
Yeah,
love that, man. That makes me want to invest in a company. Now we're gonna talk about that because
yeah,
you're using crowdfunding instead of venture capital funding, or are
yeah.
you using venture
We
capital funding as
we
well?
we're
Like, what's
de-
going on with that?
Yeah, so we're definitely talking to venture capital firms, private
Okay.
equity firms, um, and we're actively talking to them. but it's got to be on our terms. Um, for anyone, I guess, that knows the history of venture capital firms,
Mhm.
historically speaking, they like to usually take over your company, and I guess call the shots. But the problem is, I actually used to audit venture capital firms as well, so like I actually know how they work.
Uh-huh.
So this is they they want to run the operation, but they don't actually know the business. So like they're in the business of raising capital to invest in companies. That's their business model. But they're jumping into industries that they don't know the nuances about, and they want to run that. And I'm like, no, we actually know how to do that. Like it's we're in this space. We came from industries that gave us experience to be able to do this. So um, if a VC or PE firm wants to invest in us, and um, we still have the creative vision, I'm all good with that. But we've been in the space for a couple of years, in the weeds. We see what's going on. We're talking to people on the ground. You've got to trust us at the end of the day. If you've got trust issues, we're probably not the company for you to invest in.
I
So
got
like that, and we
Yeah.
I guess what I love about the fact that myself and other team members um, used to deal with VCs and private equity firms is that at least we got to have really honest conversations with them, and we don't waste each other's time. And I love
Mhm.
the fact that that level of respect is shown to one another. Um, they know what background we come from, so some are straight up. They'll be like, "Hey, these are our terms. These are why. I know you guys may not want it, but just be straight up with us." And like, so far it's been no, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, all of our funding to date has been, angel investors in our network and stuff like
Okay.
that.
So how does that work with with the crowdfunding?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
are people just, is it like a donation based situation, or are these people expecting ROIs? Are they expecting return on
They're
their
definitely
investment?
expecting ROIs.
Okay. So how
So
does that work? How do you do this with them? Like, how does that work? For
yeah,
anyone listening that wants to invest in your company.
yeah. So I know you mentioned that you've got a domestic and international audience. So
Definitely, yes.
there's
Yes,
two
definitely
different paths.
Germany.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, okay. Germany. There's also,
yeah,
Africa, Nigeria. There
yeah,
a lot of people come from the Netherlands as well.
yeah.
So,
So I'll
those are
definitely mention
yeah.
both paths.
Okay, great.
So
Thank you.
we have a equity crowdfunding campaign right now on a portal called WeFunder. And WeFunder is the largest equity crowdfunding platform on the planet. So essentially, companies will raise money through that portal, and people are most of the time buying equity into a company, which means they're buying part ownership into a company, which
It's like
then
the Green Bay Packers, if you will. Like they're owned by
yeah,
the by
yeah.
everybody in Green Bay.
Yeah, so it's
Copy.
kinda so we're there, so it's actually an opportunity via the WeFunder platform. It's at wefunder.com/blockquake. And I guess for people that are hearing the company name that might not know what you and I are saying, like, think blockchain and earthquake. We
I
combine
love it. I
Yep,
think
that's
the
how
name,
we
like I would invest in the companies based
yeah,
off the name alone.
that's how we
When you
combine the
told me it was
name,
called
yeah.
Blockquake, I'm like, that
Yep,
is amazing. I'm
yeah.
big on that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and the story kinda behind that was, like,
Yeah.
when we got into the space, we were like, "This is more than just about a cryptocurrency, it's about the underlying blockchain technology," so we wanted part of the blockchain word in our name, and then, we kinda fell in love with, like, the concept of an earthquake. I know, like, a natural disaster can be very destructive, but on the flip side of that, like, an earthquake is incredibly powerful and transformational, and you can't stop it. Like, it's just gonna do what it's gonna do,
Exactly.
and there's just, like, power in that, like, and that's how we combine those 2 words to come up with Blockquake, because we saw that this was about the bigger technology, and we wanna be a force to reckon with, create those seismic shifts and push this industry forward, to where it needs to go.
I see the
So
vision. I love
that's
it.
that's how
I
we
love
came
it.
up with that, and,
It's a great name.
thank you, thank you. And then,
Did you come up with that, or was it like
I came up with it, and then, like, I
okay?
definitely spoke with the team about it and everything, and, we chopped it up about a few different names, and then kinda everyone just felt like, "Hey, this one, it just sounds, like, powerful," and
BQ, the
yeah,
initials. I love it.
yeah,
It's fire. I love it.
yeah, yeah, but definitely to the
Yeah, yeah,
WeFunder
yeah.
question.
Definitely. Yeah,
So,
yeah.
um, it's an opportunity for people to actually invest in a crypto exchange company. We're actually the only crypto exchange company that the regular everyday person can invest in. There's, one that's publicly traded. You can go, buy their stock and, at a what, $75 billion valuation. I don't know
Mhm.
what it is.
Yeah.
Or you can get into an up and coming crypto exchange
You have
company.
499 million
No,
valuation.
150 lower.
You're lower.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that
Okay.
that
What
stat
was that
so
about?
so
Yeah.
to explain to people,
Yeah.
we hired a third party independent firm to do a future valuation analysis on us. Um, and they factor in like risk of startup, but potential of the industry. They look at all those things and
Mhm.
they came up with like a medium or average number of pretty much 500 million. And we're like, hey, we can't raise at that number. That's way too high for
Okay.
for
Okay. So that's
people.
what it was.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so the low, like, they had this range, so, like, that was the middle, and
That
then
was the median number.
yeah, and then
Copy.
the high end was, like, actually 8 to 900 million, I think.
Okay.
Then the low end was around 180. So we're like, "Hey, we also wanna, give people a chance to come in at a, proper lower valuation." So we chose 150 as the number, which was even lower than the 180.
Yeah.
And, so it's actually a 150 mil valuation, which is a fraction of like a lot of these other crypto exchanges people are hearing about, and you can kind of be in at the ground floor. So you've got the one trading out there at between 50 to 100 billion. You've got other ones that are talking about going public right now at like 10, 20, 30 billion valuation. So by the time like they're out there for people to buy, like you're paying these much higher premiums. So
Yeah.
we're actually the only crypto exchange company that people can own a piece of in a private
And
placement.
still, because I mean, I'm
And
sure that
still,
might
yeah,
change,
yeah,
eventually,
yeah. Eventually we're gonna hit the cap for the
Yeah.
refunder, and we have to close it down. So
Yeah.
I
How
hate to
close do
like
you know how close you are to hitting that?
so it's a $5 million raise in total.
Okay.
We recently kind of really put some effort behind it. I think that we might kind of see half of it reserved in the coming weeks. Like, just we're really out there telling our network about it. So like, not to trigger people's FOMO, but I mean, like, you can throw in as little as $100 into it, or as much as you want, based on whether you're accredited or not. But yeah, the everyday person, it's really your only opportunity to actually like
And do
have
you
part
give
of
them
a
a breakdown of like, okay, you give us 100, expect this in the future? How does
so
that work? Yeah.
Yeah, so from, obviously no one knows what tomorrow holds, but
Copy.
from our estimates and what we see for us and this industry conservatively, we think that, at that valuation, they're probably looking at, somewhere between 20 to 40x returns within,
Are you
3
kidding
to
me?
5 years. That might sound insane and high, but based on what we're seeing comparable exchanges do revenue-wise, I'm like, "No, we didn't even factor in that we're gonna compete at that level right away." Like,
Yeah.
we pared it back a lot and still came up with these type of numbers,
Yeah.
and this is, actually related to dividends, right? We didn't even
Exactly.
factor in
Yeah, definitely. Let's talk
future
about it.
valuation.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, most private companies don't pay their investors anything, and, that's why you often hear stories of like, "Oh, some company made all this money and they were private, but the investors never saw a dollar." So we didn't want investors being concerned about that. Once we hit revenue generation mode and we're doing profit, we definitely intend to, like, do a return of capital, continue to pay dividends to our investors because, like, these were the ones that jumped in early and had faith in us, and we should be rewarding them for that. So we definitely want to make sure people see a real cash flow over the years. So regardless of when we go public, they're seeing a real return on their money. They don't have to wait for that going public event for them to like
To
sell
start
their
seeing money
ownership.
coming back
Yeah,
in their direction.
yeah,
I'm gonna be honest, you're getting me a little excited right now, man.
yeah. It's
You know,
I mean,
might
I'm
give you a
excited.
check right now. Like that's how I'm feeling. Like,
Yeah, it's
you're selling. I mean, the company sounds good. It sounds like it's on very solid ground because
yeah,
whenever you go look into a company and investment, you're the CEO.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And it seems like you care more about building a
yeah,
solid foundation more than even making money at this point. You want to
yeah.
make sure that this thing doesn't
The mo
unravel.
the money will come, like, that's
Yeah,
the one thing I've said, like, "Hey, if we do this right, build the foundation right," like you
yeah,
said, like, all that other stuff's gonna come, I'm not interested in, taking shortcuts that get us in trouble later.
Okay. No,
Um,
I respect that. I
Definitely.
respect
Well,
that.
one of the other things I want to mention,
Yeah, no, go ahead.
because you mentioned ROI and dividends. There's
Yeah.
something else we're doing for our WeFunder investors,
And what's
and
that?
we're doing this for our QuakeCoin investors too that we'll talk about.
Okay.
Um, for anyone that invests in our WeFunder, we are actually going to give them free lifetime trading on our platform up to $100,000 of trading volume a year.
Really?
Yeah. So if somebody like,
Is that sustainable, man? You guys can get away with that?
yeah, we ran the numbers. So we
Yeah?
actually ran the numbers like, hey, this is something we can do for people that participate in our crowdfunding activity
Okay.
where, for the regular everyday person, they're not probably trading $1 million, they're trading a few thousand here and there.
Yeah.
So like they can trade in and out and they won't have to incur the trading fee at all as an investor in the company. And, we waive that fee and that gives them more to trade with too.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
fantastic. Hey, everyone out there, pay attention, man.
Yeah.
You get in while the getting is hot, like they say back in the days. And everyone, by the way, it's been I'm sorry we had a
Yeah.
lot to unravel, but the podcast is sponsored by OTW
Yep.
Threads. Be out of this world. Also, attitudeon10.com, your place to start getting over your trauma and building resilience. And if you want to start your own podcast, everyone, hit the links below in the description. I'll give you all the cool stuff that you need to start a good podcast and get your voice heard out there for whatever niche you want to talk about. Now, Mr. Brass, we've reached the point
Oh, should
where
I?
no,
I
go
do
ahead.
want to speak to your
No,
international audience.
yeah, no, go ahead, go ahead. Before we get to that, yes,
Yeah,
definitely, go ahead.
yeah.
Sorry
So,
about that.
so for people that are
Yeah.
outside of the U.S. and
Hmm.
Canada, we also have our own crypto exchange token sale as well. So we have our own exchange token, um, and that's at quakecoin.com. So it's only available for people outside of the U.S. and Canada. So like people in
Okay.
Germany,
Why
South
is that?
America.
Can you tell the layman?
It's because of security laws in the U.S.
Okay.
and Canada. They just generally
So the
don't.
SEC is giving you an issue with that.
Yeah, they've
Okay.
made it pretty clear, them and Canada have made it
Got you.
pretty clear, like, these token sales require all these other compliance measures that are very, difficult to achieve, so it so we have to block that off, but our exchange token is available for purchase for people outside the US and Canada, and a lot of the same perks there, the free trading, as well as, like, trading fee discounts, etcetera. People can take a look at the site to see all the different perks on both offerings, the WeFunder and the QuakeCoin. Forget the number. I think we just created it yesterday. For people that invest a certain level and up, we're actually gonna like throw in a free year of like Netflix or Hulu or whatever they want, Disney Plus,
Really?
whatever. Yeah, these are like investor perks, right? Like you want to reward the people that like believed in your vision and help make it happen. So outside of ROI, like we really want to make sure we're rewarding people. So we've got the exchange token overseas, and I think we're going to do really good with that for anyone that follows the crypto markets. Crypto exchange tokens have performed incredibly well. So there's no reason like I don't believe like we would not be able to do much of the same. So yeah, those are the two like crowdfunding options that are out there for people.
Now, as more people start adopting and more companies
Yeah.
start adopting, that helps you guys, right? I would imagine.
Yes. Yeah.
You know.
And I'd also point out, as a crypto exchange business, we can make money in a bear market too. So
Really?
and because people are trading, right? It's no different from stocks.
Yeah.
Like the stock market could be in a bull market or a bear market, but the platforms like a TD Ameritrade or a Charles Schwab or E Trade, Fidelity, whoever they charge fees, right, on the transaction. So no matter what's going on, they're still making money. So as a crypto exchange, we charge fees, and so whether the markets are roaring upwards or down, we still generate revenue. So this is why like I harp on it to people that yes, definitely pick the cryptos that you like that are out there and try to, go for that grand slam and, that big win. But don't forget, like, we're sort of, in my mind, a safe play within the crypto space because you're actually investing in a company that uh, doesn't care if the market's bull or bear at any one time. It's going to swing back and forth, right? That's how markets work.
Hmm.
For us, it ain't a thing. It doesn't matter. Uh, people are still trading at the end of the day, so we're able to still generate revenue.
That's music to people's ears.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be
yeah,
honest, man. Definitely gonna have a conversation with you after this podcast is over.
yeah.
Wow. Well, folks, OTW Threads, Attitude on 10. And now, we've reached the point in the podcast where it's time to play 5 Words with Angel. All right, Mr. Brass, on 5 Words with Angel,
Yeah.
we're going to give you a word, phrase, or a question. You're going to give us the first thought that comes to your head.
Okay,
Are you ready?
I am. We have
All
to keep
right.
it clean, right? No, I'm
Oh no! Yeah,
yeah.
you do own a company, so I
Yeah,
would
exactly,
suggest you
yeah.
keep it clean
Yes, yes.
in this social climate, sir.
Yeah, true, true. So true.
Now,
We didn't even get to talk about diversity of the team.
Oh, we can.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh no,
Yeah,
no, we
sure,
will.
yeah,
This
yeah,
is just
yeah,
5 Words with
yeah.
Angel. No, this
Yeah.
is gonna be. There's gonna be a
Yeah, considering
it's the
like
bonus.
yeah, when
that-
you mentioned the social dynamic that we
Yeah,
live in now,
no,
like,
definitely.
yeah,
No, definitely. No,
yeah.
no, that we're definitely gonna scroll today. But
All right.
when I get to 5 Words with Angel, people
Okay.
like it. So, so the first phrase is the current banking system. What do you think about it?
Needs fixing.
Needs fixing.
And I say that because I know people sit at polar opposites of this, and they're like, we need to do away with everything, or like, no, everything's perfect. I'm like, it's not perfect, and we don't have to do away with everything too. There are aspects of it that work, and that's why Blockquake, because we actually are trying to create the bridge between both. Nobody's really attacking that. So, yeah, I mean,
love it.
people need it. Yeah.
All right. The second word is compliance. What do you think about when you think about compliance, Antonio?
Consumer protection.
Consumer protection,
Because
right.
people often want to know, why should that word matter to me? And it's like, because we're trying to protect consumer, the trader, at the end of the day. That's why.
Copy. The third one is, what do you think about when you think about the Federal Trade Commission and the Security Exchange Commission?
Partners.
Partner.
That
I
co-
love
yeah.
that. I like that.
Like, I don't.
You are a life coach, man. You think
Yeah.
about things in a positive frame of mind. I like that.
I even think other crypto exchanges are partners because we provide liquidity to one another. So I'm like, there's, 50 like stock exchanges, maybe 30 to 50 out there,
Mhm.
and they're all making billions a year, right? They're not taking food off each other's table. Like, there's so much.
Look, there's abundance out
There's
there.
abundance, yes. And when people often ask, like, how do you compete? I'm like, we don't have to. Like, we can all make money together.
Exactly.
And particularly with the regulators that you just mentioned, they're trying to learn this space too, and we need to be there to help educate them, and both understand each other's needs, concerns, etc., and just work together, so we can, grow this space methodically.
Nice. I mean, those are the facts of life, man. You really have this down. There can be partners down the line, man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So definitely. Fourth, what do you think about when you think about Queens? Not Queens. Brooklyn, New York, right? That's where you're from, right?
Yes. Very prideful home.
Nice.
It's everywhere I travel around the world. I think about community culture, all that stuff. When I travel globally, I have a Brooklyn baseball cap. I wear it.
Nice.
I rep everywhere I
love it.
go.
I love that.
And when you meet people in other countries, they're like, "Where are you from?" I'm like, "I'm from Brooklyn,"
Yeah.
right? Like, say it loud. And
Dope.
yeah, it's there's definitely a lot of pride just being from Brooklyn, from New York City.
I love it. Now, the fifth and final word. Who were your financial mentors? Do you have any financial mentors?
I would definitely say, Warren Buffett's up there.
Okay.
Like, I look at, someone like a Elon Musk as well. I know, like, he's got a personality that people feel one way or the other about.
I think he's hilarious.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I just he's so quirky. I like individuals like that. He's
But,
very different.
yeah, from a perspective of his
Yeah.
vision
Yeah.
and what he sees, like, it's something I deeply admire. Uh, you know, Jeff Bezos, his story is amazing. Like, it's the true come up story where,
I
like,
mean, he lost a ton of money before he
yeah,
was able to build Amazon into the empire
yeah,
that it
yeah,
is
people
now.
people forget, like, they
They
see
didn't
him.
see his vision for
Yeah.
years and years and years. They
Yeah,
didn't see
and
it.
they see him as, I don't know who he is as a personal,
Yeah,
as a
definitely.
person and his character
We're
and
talking
stuff,
about
but
the facts of like his
yeah,
business.
yeah, his business, and people see him as this, like, 100 something billionaire person now, but people forget, like, yo, he came from a single mother household, and, then she happened to meet, his Cuban immigrant, stepdad that he calls dad now,
Mhm.
and, like, he came up through a journey that, it really is the American dream, like, the
Yeah.
story,
It's not the
uh
regular route, if you
yeah, yeah,
will.
it's not the regular route to being, number 2 or 3 richest man on the planet, right?
Exactly.
So,
Gotta respect it.
yeah, yeah.
Gotta respect
Um,
it.
yeah, we could probably go on about people that are like business or financial
Well, you'll come
geniuses.
back. Well, you
Yeah,
even
yeah,
even if you become a
yeah.
trillion-dollar company, will you come back and speak to Angel of Words?
Absolutely,
I
absolutely.
appreciate that, man. Imma
Definitely,
hold
thank
you
you.
to it, you know?
Yes.
Definitely, because I don't plan on going anywhere, I'm getting stronger by the day.
Yeah.
Now, I wanna talk about what you've been doing though, because,
Was there a number 5 or
that
that was 5?
I think that was 5. Yeah, we did, the current
Oh, okay.
banking system compliance, the FTC, SEC, Brooklyn, and financial
Oh, okay.
mentors. 5
Wow,
words
that
with
went by
Angel.
fast.
You wanna do a 6th one? I wanna talk about the diversity in your company,
Yeah,
though.
yeah,
Uh, to me, when it comes to money, more than anything, I mean, honestly, more than anything else, you want to make sure you hire the best
yeah,
people. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't want people being mad because they lost their money.
yeah,
But your company is extremely diverse, man.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, honestly, it's looking like the cabinet right now.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
it's,
better
yeah,
actually.
we've got jokes that our team looked like the United Nations.
Yeah, yeah, no, it is. It really
Yeah,
is a
yeah,
United Nations. Everybody's from everywhere. You're hiring the best. You made a great network of talented people from all over the world,
yeah,
man. What's that like to not only have a strong foundation, but have a team of like people from with different ideas from all over?
yeah, and I point out to people, like, that's just good business because,
Yeah,
like, I know there are companies out there that, like, they try to create this, perception of diversity because they think that'll get them more sales, whatever, but, not necessarily caring about it, like, it just so happened that the team we built comes from different ethnic and racial backgrounds, different countries, different religions, we've got everything brown, black, Asian, white, uh Christian, Jew, Muslim, Hindu, whatever, like, it's all mixed up, and each of those people bring their own unique experiences that they've lived to the table, and that matters, right? We're trying to be a global crypto exchange company, a platform for all people everywhere, so, those different voices matter because as we, go to certain countries, we need to know how to speak to them and, make sure we understand them and that we're addressing their needs and concerns. So, just from a pure smart business decision perspective, like diversity matters.
no,
Yeah,
man. I really
and
appreciate your perspective on
yeah,
that because it's important. You know what I'm saying? I
and
mean,
yeah,
it's good to see people from everywhere making it,
yeah,
man.
and
Like it really it's like it's
yeah,
America now.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? You
yeah,
actually how do you say a production of what America is.
yeah,
Just a
yeah.
diverse community of people that are great.
And I love my team. Like
Yeah,
we're pretty much like family or close friends at this
yeah.
point. Like we know each other well, and yeah, yeah. It's
So
it's
there's
an
a family atmosphere at Blockquake too.
there
It's not
is,
only
yeah,
like business, business, business. Like you're setting a tone of
yeah.
like not only caring about yourself, like making sure that you're set financially, but you want to care about people's mental health. I mean, you're a life coach as well,
Yeah,
so
definitely,
you care
definitely.
about those things as well, and having like some camaraderie
Yeah,
amongst the staff.
definitely. Yeah,
Okay.
like those times where we see, something might be off about somebody. Hey, we
Hmm.
ask them like, "Hey, is
Okay.
everything good? Everything good in your life with your family's life?" That type of stuff, and just make sure like you're good. And just make sure that, like you said, like the mental health is there, that they're taking care of themselves. Because I want them to be on the team for the long haul. So I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm not trying to burn anyone out. And yes, it's startup life when you're at the beginning
Oh
like
yeah, it's
we
no
are.
joke. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
definitely.
it's a
Yeah.
grind, it's a hustle, there is burnout, but you have to make
Yeah.
sure you take care of yourself.
Definitely. But you're making sure that you're on top of people, making sure because like you said, there is burnout, but you're on top of man. It seems like you care about your team and like everybody's, in there pulling in the same direction.
Yes, yes, definitely.
Cool.
And the great thing about this team that we have is I feel like for the most part everyone's pretty accountable with themselves. I don't have to worry about something going wrong and no one not telling me. We have team meetings every day where we're all on the phone. We talk about like, hey, what's going on? What's up? What do we need to address? So there's a lot of really good communication, and that's important. Like that's one of the things like I learned when I trained as a life coach that you have to not assume. If you have to say to yourself that I think they understood me or know what I want, they probably didn't. Like you have to be confident that like yeah, they know what they need to go do. So particularly in startup life, like I've seen so many companies fail, regardless of what industry they're in. Often not because they didn't have a great idea, just because there wasn't proper communication on the team, and things just fell through the cracks and fell apart. So yeah, yeah. So we just make sure that there's crystal clear
No, that's a good
communication.
thing to know. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying? Like you're really getting. I mean, folks,
yeah,
you don't get this kind of introspective look into a startup company. So you know what I'm saying? You know, take advantage. Go to the WeFunder, and let's help Blockquake. Shake up the universe. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? Antonio, where could we? Give us all the information we need. You look into this camera
Sure,
here.
sure.
Give the public everything they need to know in terms of like the business and how to help you guys grow.
Yeah, yeah. So definitely for people looking for more information about the company as well as investing, you can go to wefunder.com/blockquake. For those looking at the token offering, you can go to quakecoin.com. And then just generally social media, Blockquake is our handle for everything.
Okay,
So like
cool.
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and then, myself personally, it's usually my name, first name, last name, Antonio Brasse is my social media handle, pretty much for the same things: Instagram, Twitter, etc.
Oh, cool. All right. Now, Antonio, you're from Brooklyn, baby. You've come a long way. You've put in a lot of work. You're building something that probably looks like it's gonna change the face of the universe. I see the vision. I feel the vision.
Thank you. I
It's one thing
appreciate
to
that.
see it,
Yeah,
but there's another thing to feel it. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So, just let people know, like, when they from your beginnings, from your humble beginnings, let them know what it takes to get her to a point where you are right now.
I was born and raised in Brooklyn. I got to see people from all different walks of life. And with this company, Blockquake, one of the underpinnings of why we do what we do is because I think about financial inclusion for all. Being a company that wants to be global, we see people from New York City to other cities to other countries where people don't have access to basic financial services. What we're doing can solve a lot of that, and that's very important to me regarding helping people. Like, it's cool to make money, but as we do that, we should be out there trying to help people. So, um, for anyone watching and they want to be an entrepreneur or be successful in life, I think it starts with having a desire to actually help people and do better for this world and make this world better. Like I feel like that really needs to be there for you to have true long term success.
Wow. Mr. Brass,
Thank you.
thank you so much for joining us.
Definitely. Thank you so
Honestly, it
much.
was a pleasure to hear about the Black Quake vision. It was just very refreshing to hear that, you can actually get in on a company,
Yep.
before they explode.
Yeah.
And, I just feel it. I'm getting chills right now thinking about it. We're definitely going to have a conversation after this podcast is
All right.
over. But I really want to thank you for gracing us with your presence. I know you're a busy man with the startup, and, your this hour and a half that you spend with me, it's not nothing that I take lightly.
Yeah, I
So
appreciate your
thank
time as
you.
well. Thank you for having me
Thank you for
on.
sure, man. Thank you so much, everyone. That was Mr. Antonio Brass here on the Angel of Words podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, click on that notification bell, and definitely share this message because you might miss out on something humongous. You could also follow us and on Spotify and all the other podcast platforms. Our sponsors are OTW Threads and AttitudeOn10.com. If you want the merchandise that's available on the Angel of Words Network, go to AOWENT.com. You know that if you want to start your own podcast, all the links are down below. So click on them, man, and reach out if you need help. And we'll give you a consultation on how to get started on your endeavor. Everyone, thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this one.